The Coalition for an Effective SADC Tribunal has expressed sadness at the tribunal's demise. The body was established 14 years ago to resolve issues between Southern African states. The Southern African Litigation Centre wants SADC citizens to join calls against closing the institution. For more on this, then, I'm joined in studio by Regional Advocacy Programme lawyer Amanda Shivambu. Thank you so much for coming through, Amanda. So this matter has a long history, and I was saying to you off air, my own sense of it was the ruling against former President of Zimbabwe, Robert Mugabe, and the land reform that the SADC tribunal reached. It was based in Namibia, right?
Yes.
That ruling to me seemed to have been the death knell. But a lot has happened since then, with the result that you are on a campaign. What do you want SADC heads of state, including our very own President Cyril Ramaphosa, to do?
Thank you, and thank you for having me this afternoon. Yes, this has a very long history, and unfortunately it all began when Zimbabwe was doing a land redistribution program, and the Zimbabwe farmers were being told to move from their land, and so they approached the SADC tribunal, which was a regional court put in place to ensure that citizens have access to justice after exhausting local remedies in their own countries. So when they took this matter to the SADC tribunal, the tribunal in fact ruled in favor of the Zimbabwean farmers, but unfortunately President Robert Mugabe at the time was not happy with that decision, and he then lobbied member states of SADC and said that what needs to happen is that there should be a review of this entire tribunal. And so it went from that instance, it went downhill. After the review, the tribunal was suspended, and now we're sitting at a point where they never renewed the terms of judges, and at the moment SADC does not have a regional court to access.
Yeah, and you contrast that with other regions
yes.
of the African continent, right?
Exactly.
And I'm aware of the ECOWAS
yes.
Court of Justice,
yes.
which also has the mandate to hear issues of human rights.
Exactly,
yeah.
and giving member state citizens access to justice. So there's also the East African Court. If we go and look internationally, you've got the Inter-American Court, the European Court. So you wonder why the SADC heads of state would put SADC in a position where its members do not have access to justice in the region. It really is unfortunate.
Beyond, of course, the courts in their own countries.
Exactly.
Why is this important, Amanda, in the context in which, for instance, there's been, in recent years, talk about African countries withdrawing from the Rome Statute and the International Criminal Court, criticizing it for various reasons. Why is this important, then, to have an effective SADC tribunal?
You know, it's extremely important because it's an issue of access to justice. It's an issue of the rule of law. Because what happens is, as was discussed, the issue in Zimbabwe, for instance, there's terrible human rights atrocities that are happening in Zimbabwe at the moment. And unfortunately, if their own judiciaries lack judicial independence, then they should be able to seek redress externally. And so using Zimbabwe as an example, not to mention that in every other SADC countries there are issues of freedom of expression, issues of human trafficking, issues of child abuse and so forth, where if you find that there's a collapse of the judicial system, they should be able to access a regional body. So it's extremely important. So
in our own country we've had the Constitutional Court judgment about South Africa's participation in the whole protocol that sort of, disempowered the SADC tribunal, for lack of a better word. What is your gauge of the political will to act following that particular process and withdraw South Africa's signature from that protocol that did away with the tribunal, to start with?
Disempowered, in fact, is the perfect word, because what in fact happened is the SADC tribunal initially allowed member states as well as individuals to access it. And with the new protocol that was established in 2014, they removed individual access and only left it to member states. And so right now what happened is the matter in South Africa, at least, went to court. And what happened is the Constitutional Court ordered that the current president, Cyril Ramaphosa, withdraw his signature, which he did. And this was mentioned at the SADC Heads of State Summit in Tanzania in August. But we find with other countries like Mozambique. The Law Society of Mozambique attempted to take this matter to court, and unfortunately the court took its hands off of it and said that it's a political matter that they don't or they cannot get involved in. We also have in Tanzania, where the Law Society of Tanganyika took the matter to court. And again, it was a similar judgment to the South African one, in where the court did find that the actions of the current president to sign the new protocol was inimical to the rule of law. But unfortunately, the current president has not removed his signature. So,
all right. So
South Africa is, in fact, a good example.
All right, I'm out of time. Finally, how are you lobbying for heads of state to hear you when they meet next at their summits and in preparation? And I understand President Ramaphosa will take over the chair of the AU. The AU has Agenda 2063. Let's have rule of law, human rights, peace. Exactly. The guns fall silent. We respect peace and human rights and the rule of law. What's the message? What are you doing to bring this matter front and center?
I mean, really, first and foremost, I think that we urge President Cyril Ramaphosa to urge his counterparts to follow suit with the withdrawal of their signatures as he did. And then furthermore, our campaign is going into the various countries that are members of SADC and speaking to the Law Society, speaking to the AGs, speaking to the relevant officials, and enforcing the fact that this court is so important to the region and for its citizens.
All right, thank you so much for coming through, Amanda Shivambu, talking to us about the campaign for an effective SADC tribunal. What a fascinating discussion. Let's see where it goes by way of the heads of state, whether they actually heed these calls, because African lives matter, rule of law in Africa matters, and African human rights, the human rights of Africans, actually do matter. All right.